52 episodes, 52 ordinary people, 52 real stories about things that affect overall health. Because there is a lot more that goes into being healthy than food and fitness. Inspiration, support, a new perspective, and knowledge. You'll find that and more here on the Healthability Project.
Welcome to the Healthability Project. I'm Robin McKenna. There is such an emphasis on team sports during childhood and adolescence. For some, it's a great experience. For others, it's an experience of anxiety, stress, and self-doubt. On a recent podcast, my guest, Teresa Roden, shared her story about exactly that experience. How are kids supposed to navigate peer pressure and perceived social expectations about team sport participation, especially if that's not their thing? How can a child or young adult work their way through the team sports nightmare and find something that makes them happy, feel good, and confident? Here to share her story about how she endured the misery of team sports, but found athletic pursuits that made her happy and feel good is Dr. Cynthia Hey. Dr. Hey is a low-force chiropractor and fitness trainer in practice for 24 years. She released her own fitness book, Soft Health, a handbook for those who aren't motivated by killer workouts and strict diets, to share healthy eating and exercise tips that have helped her patients and herself throughout the years. Her recommendations are doable and fun and not overbearing. She explains how the Mediterranean diet is nourishing, delicious, and flexible, and illustrates how everyone can reap the amazing benefits of exercise, each in their own special way. Dr. Hey also reveals hacks for staying motivated and for staving off pain so we can keep moving. Thanks so much for joining me today, Cynthia. I am so glad to have you on my show.
Thank you, Robin. It's my pleasure. I'm really happy to be here.
And I think, what you say about everybody finding what works for them for themselves is so super important.
Exactly. If it's the most wonderful workout in the world, but you don't enjoy it, are you going to stick with it? Nope. Doesn't matter how good it is on paper or how great the ads are. If you don't enjoy it, it's not going to last very long.
Right.
So it's so important to explore different kinds of exercise, taking different classes, trying different types of even videos, whatever, different ways you can explore doing different kinds of exercise and then see what feels like fun. Because that's what you're going to be naturally more consistent with. And the consistency is the most important thing about exercise, that you're doing something consistently.
So tell us your story. Where did this begin? In grade school, high school, and what was your story?
Yeah, well, in elementary school, I think was when I just began hating gym class because it was very focused on team sports, and team sports were not my thing. For some reason, I just didn't feel coordinated or good at it. I was also very shy. So I wasn't someone to take the field and get the ball. And I was just more shy, and it didn't feel comfortable for me. When we picked teams, that was always a dreaded thing because I tended to be picked last. And then, as you mentioned, it's anxiety provoking, going through that again and again, and it destroys your confidence. You just feel like you're no good because people aren't picking you.
Were you ever teased in school for being picked last or not being?
I don't remember specific teasing about being picked last. I don't particularly remember that association, but I just know that it didn't feel good. It really didn't feel good. I wasn't the only one, in the bottom list there. There were a few of us that were routinely picked last, but we all hated it. But I did do some things outside of school that I did enjoy. I liked taking swim lessons. I really liked swimming in the ocean and jumping the waves. I took some dance classes and I really enjoyed those, and I could keep up in the dance classes. And I did baton twirling where I even won trophies. So it wasn't like I had no muscle tone and I had no coordination at all. I just liked things that weren't team sports, which you could call individual sports, more so where you're competing to get better and better yourself. And it's not a type of game where you're passing the ball and, coordinating plays with teammates and stuff like that. For whatever reason, I wasn't good at that, but I was good at these individual activities. And I think that's a distinction that's lost in gym classes. If kids were given the option, I think a lot more kids from the time they're young and then growing into adulthood would have found things that they enjoyed and would have a positive association with exercise instead of a negative one.
Mm-hmm.
But, I was just lucky that I found those activities when I was younger. And then that even expanded when I was in high school. My dad took me to a gym and showed me the weights and how to do the machines and how to do the free weights. And I loved it. It was something that took my mind off of my worries, off of my schoolwork and other stresses at school. And I would just think about the form with the weights, and I'd hear the music in the background. And I always left feeling so much better than when I went in.
Mm-hmm.
And that too was just such a wonderful discovery. And then I've stayed active with exercise my whole life. But I look back and I feel bad for kids who maybe had the terrible gym experience I did,
Mm-hmm.
and then didn't have the other outlets to learn about other ways that they could be physically active and have fun and enjoy it. And then for them, it could be a battle as they're an adult.
So it seems that these pursuits that you found on your own, they were obviously, I don't know, maybe like a form of meditation because it took you to a different place and you were able to just focus on you. But even just the simple achievement that you began to lift weights, or that you became a better swimmer or a better dancer, that had to have contributed to your self-confidence and just made you feel empowered. I mean, I know empowered is more of an adult word. You're not really thinking that as a kid, but in retrospect, you can identify it that way.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. It was both. It was for my mind because it took me away from things, but I definitely saw progress with swim, with dance, with baton, and in the gym. And that progress was definitely confidence building. And everyone deserves that.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing about exercise. Just as a review for listeners, the incredible benefits of exercise. Some of these you've heard many times, but it's worthy of reviewing, and some you may not have heard before. So, of course, we're going to get increased muscle strength and tone. We're going to have a faster metabolism and more calorie burning. We're going to have better cardiovascular health. But another thing about muscle building, we increase growth hormone, which increases muscle mass and bone mass, both of which reduce as we age, and we get literally more frail. So we're protecting ourselves and giving ourselves more autonomy in our adulthood if we stay stronger and we keep that bone mass and muscle mass up. We have more autonomy and independence because we're not getting more and more frail.
Mm-hmm.
Also, when we exercise, we have more energy in the day and we sleep better at night.
Right.
Our immune system function is increased. Our memory and learning is increased with exercise. Our endorphins are increased. Our mood is increased, and our self-esteem is increased. Everybody deserves that. It shouldn't be just for people who like team sports or just for people who do a certain kind of exercise. Everybody deserves that. It's essential to find something you like.
Yeah. I think it's so important, and you've certainly just emphasized it. We focus so much on just working out for the sake of working out and, seeing the end result of the six pack or the really muscular guy or really toned woman. But what we really have all failed to do is focus on the benefits of exercise broadly, in that,
Yes.
like you said, enhanced mood, enhanced self-confidence.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in a better mood and you have better confidence, your relationships are better, right? You
Yes.
more at work.
Yes.
You just live life more fully.
And then there are also things that exercise, there were even a few additional things. We've all heard it reduces disease risk, but many of the main big ones, heart disease, dementia, diabetes, cancer, it's going to reduce your risk for all of those. Also, in that mood category, it reduces anxiety, it reduces depression, and it even reduces symptoms of ADHD. So those are even some additional things that we don't always hear about, but they're very true.
It's just fascinating. And it's unfortunate that so many people can't make the connection. They don't know to make the connection to these amazing benefits. And they just, I think a lot of people just feel I can't afford a gym, or I'm just not going to dedicate myself to doing that. And everybody loses out.
Yeah. I mean, you can always start with just trying to increase your steps. And that's an easy way to get started. And just being creative, trying to take the long way to go somewhere rather than the shorter way if you're walking, trying to park farther away, opting for the stairs whenever you can, and just kind of replace in your mind the words, I'm tired at home, and be like, it's a step opportunity. So who's going to let out the dog? I'll let out the dog. I'm going to get more steps. Who needs more water? All right, I'll get it for myself. I'll get up and get 2 seconds. Whatever ways you can eliminate, I'm tired, just be like, you know what? I want those steps. I'll use it as an opportunity. And chores, you're getting more steps in when you're doing chores. So they're not as much of a burden as they are an opportunity. So it's about how you look at it, and increasing your steps is a great way to get started. And you still can explore, various other classes and things.
It's definitely a combination of mindset change and behavioral change, right? And both are, slow and steady wins the race. Nothing is going to happen overnight. And, like you said earlier, it's just, I'll walk the dog and you tack on a few extra steps a day. And over the course of time, it just gets to be more and more.
Yes.
When you were in school, how was it that you found swimming? Did someone make that suggestion, or did you just pursue that on your own? And I'm curious to know, you said there were others that you were in school with that also really just could not endure the gym classes and team sports things. Did you kind of band together? And I don't know, was there some kind of a support network in that? The fact that you all hated it?
In elementary school, your classes change. You have a different class. So I think each year might have been a different person I commiserated with, but I don't have a strong memory of like a group of us. So I think that kind of changed year to year, depending on who was in my class. Mm-hmm. I luckily did have some friends to endure it with, but it still didn't make up for how miserable it was. It was still miserable. Mm-hmm. As far as swim class, that came because my parents, they just, for safety, they wanted me to learn to swim. Oh, wow. And then my grandparents lived on the beach, so then we would be in the ocean, and jumping the waves it's good exercise that requires some strength and endurance.
Yes. I can remember that as a kid myself.
Yeah.
And just even when you go to the beach and watching little kids now in the water, it's fun to watch them, but as an adult, you're also worried that the undertow might take them, or
right. It does take some strength and endurance. It definitely does.
Where did you get the idea for the book? What inspired you to write this book?
It was a few things. That experience as a kid was definitely part of it. Just feeling like exercise does not have to be torture. It can be really fun. And I've learned that there is a high school, there probably are a few, but the one that I heard about when I was researching for the book in Illinois, there is a high school that does give students a choice on the activity they could do. And I always wished I had that. But in that school, the kids get better grades and they do better in gym class too. They rate them on their ability to improve. And that school is a great role model. It's called Naperville Central High School in Illinois. From the negativity when I was in school, and then also even in certain work environments, I would hear conversations where the attitude was, if you haven't had this backbreaking type of workout, it didn't count. And that would be kind of like the prevailing culture. And I just didn't understand why it had to be all or nothing. Either you're killing yourself in the workout or it didn't count. And I just didn't agree with that at all. And sometimes that's the culture of workouts in that type of environment. And I wanted to have something to counterbalance that, to say, look, if you like that, that's great. And if you don't, there are so many other ways that you can exercise and gain all of the benefits that I mentioned earlier. And you don't have to have this backbreaking workout. Do that if that makes you feel inspired. But if it doesn't, you've got so many other options, and you can still have all of the benefits that exercise has for you, and you deserve it. And that was a huge inspiration. And then also in the book, I mentioned certain resistance exercises that people can do at home, because sometimes people want to do resistance, but they don't want to go to a gym. And there are things you can do at home. And I wanted to put that down for people. I've also done a lot of reading about how to stay motivated, motivational science. And I wanted to include that in there so people had some tools to stay motivated. I also have read a lot of positive psychology. So I wanted to have, in a condensed form, some of the various books that I've read on keeping a positive mindset and ways to counteract things that get in our way. So I just wanted to condense all that and put that together for people, things that have helped me in that way. And then also, being a chiropractor for 24 years, I've learned different ways to do some at-home relief with certain stretches, icing procedures, some postural exercises. So those tools I've been saying to people for years, but I just thought it would be nice to put that all in one place. So this way people could learn about, and then the Mediterranean diet, as well, as was mentioned in the intro, that I find is a way to eat that isn't overly strict. There's flexibility within it. It has a framework, but then there's choices within that framework. It's not super restrictive. And it's been around for hundreds of years. And in most of the studies, it's either the same or better than other diet programs. And it stood the test of time. So I just love it. I love the Mediterranean diet. So I had to put that in there. All of those things, I just felt it would be good to put it in one resource book for people.
Well, it sounds like a great book. And again, I love the fact that you're emphasizing people incorporating exercise and the Mediterranean diet in particular into their lives. And it's about including these things more so than it is about the specifics of, X amount of calories per meal, or, X amount of reps, or, different types. It's to be sure to include it, and to be sure to, we should enjoy eating. And I think, honestly, the Mediterranean diet really does allow people to do that.
Yes.
Without too much restriction, as you say.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to focus on, is clearly, obviously, everything in moderation, but, enjoy it and just don't pressure yourself so much.
Yes, I agree.
And I think, social media is to blame for all of that. But thank you so much, Cynthia. This has been a really, really, really great conversation. And if I might share for our listeners, Soft Health is available on Amazon in paperback or as an ebook, as well as Cynthia has written a sci-fi book called Stanlin and Sylvia, which is an intergalactic adventure. And she welcomes everyone to connect with her. She also feels a special calling to care for Long Island nurses who give so much of themselves to others. You can reach Cynthia at Cynthia Hey at yahoo.com, or you can visit her website, www.cynthiaheydcpc.com. And this information will be in the show notes as well. But thank you again, Cynthia. This is great. And I think it's such an important message to get out to people, that do what's good for you. And yes, you might have to endure the team sports emphasis while you're in school, but there are ways that you can feed yourself even as a young person. Be happy with those pursuits.
Thank you so much, Robin. I really appreciate being a guest on your show, and I love what you're doing to help other people's health with this program. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, listeners, if you liked today's episode, please tell your friends about us, post on social media. And if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, you can reach me at thehealthabilityproject@gmail.com. Thanks for tuning in. We will see you next week.
Thanks for joining us today at the Healthability Project. We'd love to hear from you, so please email us your questions, comments, or suggestions, including future guests, to thehealthabilityproject@gmail.com. And please like us, subscribe, and share us with your friends.